Hello indie game fans, April looks absolutely massive for indie games, with a number of titles that are among the top 100 most wishlisted games across all of Steam, such as Sons of Valhalla, which comes in at around number 71 with an estimated 240,000 wishlists, and is a pixel art side-scrolling action strategy title that looks fantastic. You play as a Viking warrior whose wife has been captured, and giving chase, he finds himself in England and has to raid and conquer across the land in order to get to her. Interestingly, this looks like a side-scrolling strategy game like Kingdom, and while it shares similarities, it is not so much about defending your kingdom as it is building and upgrading your fortresses and then creating siege weapons to go out and raid. Looking absolutely amazing due to the lighting, and I hope this is great. I was a little confused as to where Pathless Woods laid in terms of genre, since it sure looked like a farming crafting game to me, but with combat elements, so think Stardew Valley but 3D and with an ancient China setting, but apparently this is a full-on open-world survival game, so think Rust or Pale World first rather than farming sim. You are finding your way in the world, such as in the open-ended nature of survival games, in which you can construct some impressive looking structures, farm crops using traditional techniques, and even have to defend your base from bandits. And with co-op support, it does look to be fun with friends and could be the next big survival game hit. I'm a sucker for survival RTS titles since the subgenre, popularized by They Are Billions, combines the classic genre with a new twist, spamming swarms of enemies at you, and you need to find a way to fortify your defenses in order to survive, with the next game of interest here being From Glory to Ghoul. You are attempting to establish a colony on an alien planet so that you can support the other colonists who are still up in orbit, but the formless, shape-shifting enemies known as the Ghoul approaches from all sides, including above and below, and looks to be of interest to fans of the genre. As I was reordering this list, I was surprised to find another Crab's Treasure in this spot, since I am pretty excited for this crabby Souls-like title, but there are a couple more interesting games to go. Still, it's a Souls-like title that throws away the grimdark colour palette for one which is much more vibrant and colourful, but do not be fooled, this is a Souls-like game through and through. The different shells that our hero can equip can grant different effects, with the variety of enemies and the underwater setting being of note.
As I'm writing this, most of the human race are still asleep on the island. In a few years' time, you're going to join them.
We also have the release of the gorgeous Europa, a third-person exploration adventure game that looks to be taking cues from Breath of the Wild, in which you play as an android exploring the ruins of a utopia that was built on Jupiter's moon of Europa, but something is amiss since there's no one else around. That's the central mystery of this game, as you seek to find out what happened to the last human alive, with the locomotion and traversal across land, over water, and gliding through the sky looking awesome. Do note that there is no combat in this game, so it's a cozy game through and through, so I wonder how this will keep the minute-to-minute gameplay compelling.
By sending you ahead, I'm staking my heart on the future.
A long-in-development title that I've covered even before its Kickstarter campaign is Broken Roads, which comes to us from an Australian developer and is essentially Fallout Australia but going by another name. Yes, the post-apocalypse has come to the Outback, in which our party needs to find a way to survive, having the classic turn-based tactical combat and, more interestingly, a moral compass dialogue system that goes beyond the simple duality of good or evil, paragon or renegade, instead having four main areas of utilitarian, humanist, Machiavellian, and nihilist, in which every choice you make shifts your spot on the compass, looking like another interesting alternative, and it's always fun to see new examples of systems like this, such as the Thought Cabinet and Disco Elysium, which makes this game of note. The developer also survived the closure of their publisher Versus Evil, getting the help of Tiny Build to push out the game, and has had quite the development journey.
Fated group of 3 and their links to 100 heroes.
Here's a little bit of a bittersweet story, since Eiyuden Chronicle 100 Heroes is a turn-based Japanese-style RPG that is the spiritual successor to the Suikoden games after some of the original developers left Konami to form their own indie team, having one of the most successful Kickstarters in history, and is finally out this week. But alas, the head of the studio and original creator of Suikoden, Yoshitaka Murayama, passed away on February 6, 2024 due to complications with an ongoing illness at just 55 years old, and will not get to see the release of this game. It's always heart-wrenching to hear stories like this, and to remind all of us that life is fragile and oh so precious, so hopefully this game will live up to his legacy. This is a classic Japanese-style turn-based RPG, but with the so-called HD 2D art style of pixel art characters in 3D environments, with the gimmick in this game, like in Suikoden, being that there are literally more than 100 playable characters in the game. So how that would be balanced, or if that even matters, is another question altogether, but here's hoping that this spiritual successor, like Bloodstained Ritual of the Night, will satisfy long-time fans of the genre and bring in new fans as well.
She sings like morning, my sister true.
Here's an interesting release that crept up on me, since No Rest for the Wicked was revealed during the Game Awards, and here we are 4-ish months after that, and it will already be releasing in early access, more on that later. This game immediately captured attention and is the 37th most wishlisted game on Steam with an estimated 400,000 wishlists, which of course can be attributed to how great it looks as well as the genre, which is an action RPG, but the most important factor in my opinion is that this is from Moon Studios, developer of the Ori Metroidvania games. The king is dead, and an unholy plague has returned in which you play as a mystical holy warrior sworn to fight back, but you have to maneuver the landscape of political turmoil and chaos. It looks like a Diablo-style action RPG and even has 4-player co-op support, but wants to reinvent the genre, and I have to say, the first impression is strong and I cannot wait to see what they come up with. But the early access release will only comprise of the first chapter of the narrative story campaign.
And our prayers came.
You have been chosen to govern a land of great peril and promise. It has suffered long from the scourge of banditry, but there is another threat, an illegitimate baron who claims the northern territories as his own. Will you prove yourself worthy of this honor, or will you perish by the traitor's steel?
This one's a biggie since Manor Lords had an astounding 2 million Steam wishlists as of January 18th, which I'm pretty sure has grown a lot more since then, being in the top 3 most wishlisted games next to Black Myth Wukong and Hollow Knight Silksong, and is extra impressive considering that this is a strategy title instead of an action game. You play as a lord in medieval times, having to tend to your lands and the peasants living on it during peacetime, but can also rally the banners and go to war when necessary, combining city building with large-scale tactical battles. Conscripted soldiers in your army are also blacksmiths and farmers in peacetime, so losing them in battle is extra painful, having complex economic and social simulation as well as weather and seasons all feeding into the game as the complete package. However, I'm not quite sure why it isn't marked on Steam with the big blue early access box, but from their announcements, this will be an early access release, but either way, it looks to be one of the most massive hits of the year. That is, unless we get a little bit more Hornet later this year. Here's an awesome looking title that is so much more than meets the eye, since Mini Shoot Adventures looks and plays like a bullet hell shoot 'em up title, but has an interconnected handcrafted world with backtracking. So yes, it's kind of like a Metroidvania as well. You will get upgrades and power-ups that then allow you to access new areas, with the giant bosses and action looking fantastic. It comes to us from Flash Game Legends Soul Game Studio, who are best known for Swords and Souls, as well as Rogue Soul, so it is great to see them continue to make games in 2024. For more upcoming action-adventure games like 2D Zelda, watch this video for 40 such titles.